Alright, so we're going to talk about power. There are three primary things we need to think about when understanding power. Understanding power is just understanding technique, okay? Because effort, although effort is important, effort is not all that important when it really comes to what actually generates power. Like, what are the things that really have an influence over power? The actual hardness, velocity, energy of a punch. Well, there's only really two types of punches. There's weight transfer. These are the elements of power. I said types of punches, and what I meant was the elements. So we have a weight transfer component, okay? And what is that? That is the weight moving from one foot to the other foot, or I'm throwing my weight violently inside what we call the stability pyramid. I use that term because it's a term from a forklift operation, but it actually, that's, you know, what I'm referring to as a stability pyramid is the width of your feet, and this is your head. This is, you know, a triangle, essentially. It's in 3 dimensions. But this is why we're always yelling at you about being too narrow, because as your feet get narrow and your stance gets narrow, you start doing things to compromise your weight. When you need to be able to lean a direction, you're not able to because you've made this base so narrow that you start doing things like sticking your butt out to try to, or straightening knees and all kinds of bizarre movements that look really awkward and bad and are obviously not good boxing. Wider in boxing, okay, this changes a little bit with kickboxing, but in boxing, wide is good and wide is a safe place to be. There is, this would be too wide for sure, but wider is typically better. This is too narrow. I got guys that can fight like this. I don't know. Even an effective fighter that stands this narrow, in my view, he's giving up on something in order to stay this narrow. I'm not sure what he's gaining. He's definitely giving up some power and some mobility. This is about the width we need to be at. But what is a weight transfer component of the punch? That's me putting not all of my weight, but more of it, 20-30% of my weight goes here, more than what was there before. And then I throw it to this foot. Now there's definitely such a thing as too much of this. You can overthrow your weight. In the moment you're having to do something like that to compromise, you've overthrown. So good fighters learn to throw their weight violently, very hard, inside this stability pyramid without going too far. It's like 21, playing blackjack. You win if you get 21, but if you get 22, you automatically lose, and that's the way fighting is. I want to throw my weight inside this area as hard as I can without going beyond. I need to stop just short of getting outside of my stability pyramid. Now, fighters get outside their stability all the time. There's ways to solve that problem. There's solutions, footwork, and things like that. But as a beginner, you just need to understand weight transfer is always going to be part of a punch. The second element is this rotative component, which is this movement, right? The one we're always trying to get you to do, the turning of the hips. Now, I'm overemphasizing this. As you get more experience, you don't rotate quite as much. But as a beginner, you need to understand the mechanics of how power is developed, how correct punches are developed. If you don't understand those mechanics, obviously you're going to have a hard time doing it correctly. You're going to be doing things like this, where this is just arm punching, or you're overcommitting, or with hooks, you're just doing this. This is arm punching. Okay, there's no real rotation involved. The third one we call skeletal alignment. What is that? That is at the point of impact. What is the alignment of my bones? If I throw a right straight at you and I make contact here, and my arm is straight, there's nowhere for any of this energy that I've built up and developed and pushed behind this punch to go except into you. However, if I land this punch short, which is this is what beginners tend to do with everything. It's a short punch. They've got a bend still in their elbow at that point of impact. That allows a lot of that energy to be consumed into the joint, right? And you'll notice that people that are known, if you like watch people that are like, these guys will talk about having magical power, you know, Conor McGregor, Wilder is an example. They'll be like, oh, it's magical. It's not really magical. If you look, the guy, what they do is they've learned to make contact at the end of their reach. They throw their punches and they've taught themselves a range that's the correct range for them. They haven't taught themselves to short punch everything. Where when they land a punch, I'm not saying those punches can't hurt, because they can absolutely hurt. It's just a matter of, is this the most efficient? When you throw punches efficiently, you can put less effort into them and they're all dangerous. Versus when you don't throw punches efficiently, you're relying mostly on effort to make your punches hard. And effort just isn't that effective. Not compared to these other elements. If these other elements are done correctly, effort can go way down, which means that you can throw lots more opportunities to punch, right? Versus being tired all the time, right? So we have hooks and we have straight punches. The straight punch is primarily what? One of these two energy methodologies here is going to be dominant. On a straight punch, which one do you think is dominant? Which one's the most power additive?
The weight transfer?
I'm already pointing at it, right. It's weight transfer. On a right straight, it's definitely weight transfer. I'm able to load my weight here. That's the primary element that's developing power. Now there is some rotation going on here. Obviously, there's some rotation, but it's secondary. It's additive to the weight transfer. The weight transfer is the primary power system working there. What about on a hook? It's primarily rotation. So if it's primarily rotation, there is a weight transfer component though. I load my weight here. You know, I'm doing a strict left hook. I load, I unload. There's definitely a weight transfer component, but the rotative component is kind of the more important of the two. Definitely. What do beginners do with left hooks? They throw their weight towards, they don't understand this weight transfer component. They want to throw their weight forward at the thing they want to hit, like they're throwing the right straight all the time, and it looks like this. Well, it starts with the jab, because their coach lets them do this. Which, you know, look, this is technically not incorrect, really. It's just misapplied. There are times that you throw your weight behind your jab. If I'm penetrating, there's a lot of reasons to do that, okay? I want to put that caveat in there. But if I'm going to throw a lead hook in a vacuum, a left hook, I have to load my weight here first. My weight is already forward. And I unload my weight as I sew the punch. I have to, because I got to send my weight somewhere. Otherwise, it's going to look like this. And this is what beginners do. They lean forward. It's really typically worse than that, because it's usually in a combination. Well, usually they're not learning a left hook first. They're learning like 1, 2, 3. So it looks like this. I went forward with my jab because my coach let me. My coach has stood there and let me do this all day, and then told me, now I want you to throw 1, 2, which is going to now look like this, right? I was throwing my weight forward on my jab. Now I guess I'm going to throw my weight even more forward on my right straight, right? Now I'm being asked to throw a 3, and I'm going to throw my weight even more forward. That's what a beginner looks like. They just fall into the bag. And it all starts with that coach letting them do this from a static position. Instead of develop the punch in a static position, the jab should really look like this, so that I'm loading my straight, so that I'm loading my left hook. Every punch leads to the next one. Okay? 1, 2, 3 versus 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's got to be the number one kind of thing. And it comes from this. It comes from a lack of understanding of these elements of power and how they're developed. All right, so let's get on the bags. And all we're going to do is throw a right straight. We're going to start with the